Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to ComBap Update Video Edition. Dave and Maria are joining me again for episode 3. You guys are pretty popular.
Oh, thank you. Because we have connections in the ComBap church.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know what they are, but okay. Yes.
And it's also because it's Dusty's birthday today.
Oh, that's right. You can say happy birthday to Dustin. Go ahead.
Happy birthday,
Yes, Dusty.
Go ahead, Dave. Sing us. Sing us a song, Dave. Oh, yeah. As soon as I mention singing, he throws things around. Okay.
Well, and it's also because the wind came up and knocked our technology sign down.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to start with our Bible verse, which is from Matthew chapter 18, verse 35. And I've got that verse here. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart.
Yes.
And that's following the parable of the unmerciful servant. I love this parable. I often reference it in preaching, but it's the one where the guy owes, oh my goodness, you did it again. It's the one where the guy owes like $1 billion, and then he gets forgiven, then he chokes out the guy that owes him 10, right?
Right.
Yeah. So read Matthew 18. That's an excellent idea. And
so this, when we last talked about racism, and I had a lot of calls from different people and asking, well, was it me? Was it me? Or, didn't know this happened to you, or we feel so bad. And I just wanted to say that when I made a statement there about Chauvin and Edgerton, I didn't mean the communities. I didn't mean the people. It just was a couple up to 14, 15 kids at that time.
A couple to 14, 15.
Well, it was around there. It depended on the day, but because of those things that had happened, as in the past, and in this verse, when it talks about forgiveness, and it talks about being forgiven for the small things as well as the big things. It took me 30 years to go back home, to go back to my home Stampede in Wainwright, because of fear.
Right.
My fear was that I was going to run into people that had treated me bad in the past, and I wouldn't know what to say, and all the emotions that had happened. That I was looking at the small. There was an example like, see this white shirt, but if I dropped a little piece of coffee on the shirt, you wouldn't see the whole shirt. You would just see the little piece of coffee. Well, in forgiveness, I was so concerned about those small point of coffee that I wasn't looking at the whole community as being who they were.
Right. And
how most of the people did treat me and my family members and so on, and how much they still love me. And cousins and relatives and even friends. Sure. And for all those people that are listening to this, for those communities, I didn't mean the communities. I just was saying about a couple of kids when I was in the past when I was in school.
Yep.
And that was the experiences I had. So I think those.
And that's where they happened. So I mean, that's the reality. Yeah.
And we went back just for a little drive here the other day back to Chauvin, Provost area, and I went to my parents' gravesite in La Pearl. And I was thinking, because time has gone by so fast. I mean, I can't believe that I'm over 25 at times. And now that that we're around the same age, I go home and there's so many changes, buildings falling down. Like I went just for a drive out on Saskatchewan, we went out to Macklin. We took a picture of your mom's hospital where she worked, and the changes there in that community, and so on. And so time changes and time marches on. But forgiveness is something you work on. And for me, forgiveness about racism, it's taken a long process, but I had to realize that because I wasn't being obedient to forgiving the small stuff, just like in that parable, and I was being selfish and so on, then I had to learn how to forgive. And I still work with it daily. It's a daily thing. Right. But it's the thing where I have to remember is that if he can forgive me for all that I've done and all the people I've hurt and all the people in the past I hurt before he even knew me, then I should be able to forgive the people in the past, or just a few people, for what they did, because hate and fear are the two things that hold you back. Because when you deal on those two things, and the opposite of that is love and faith, if you can increase your faith and increase your love, then you're really learning how to forgive properly, and people then will get to see you. And for those people in job and education area, I'm going to ask forgiveness for not being closer over the last 30 years, 40 years now. And I'd like to just say to you that I hope that you're all doing well, and that I still pray for the community, and my mom's prayers go for that community as well. So
now, when you guys go back there, do you feel that fear anymore, or is that fear pretty much gone?
I still have the butterflies, but that's because it's me. It's my head. It's not them.
Yeah.
It's I mean, a lot of people around there probably don't even know who I am.
No, that convenience store story. Are you experiencing any of that stuff in these days, or no?
The convenience,
like the convenience store story where you went in and
yeah, every once in a while.
Okay, so you're still experiencing that kind of stuff.
Still experience things like that, and like grocery lineups. I've had some people say don't stand close to them.
Well,
like, not because of the COVID virus.
This is before the virus, yeah.
Before the virus, because of being First Nations.
Well, when does that happen? Like,
why?
How recent?
Oh, this is about 16 years ago. But that was when I moved back to back here, and just even appearances and things. But that's just part of the story.
Yeah.
But now that I've joined your family, I mean, things are perfect, and I have no problems, no complaints. Thanks, Mom and Evelyn. I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate you, Dave. Hey, Maria, when you started listening to Dave and you think, man, all that stuff, all that crap, like, do you start feeling guilty, or are you still feeling thankful? What do you start feeling?
For myself, probably thankful.
Yeah, okay.
But then I'm also more aware of that, because like everyone has different journeys.
Yeah, for
in life.
Sure.
So what I experienced is my own personal journey. What Dave had to go through is his own personal journey. Like, everyone has different journeys. So that's the thing right there. Like, it doesn't matter what color you are, what gender, what race, like, everyone has their own journeys. So if you're more compassionate towards people and be kind, that's the big quote nowadays, be kind. Like, honestly, be kind, because you don't know what kind of journeys they have experienced.
Right.
Until today, so just be more compassionate towards people and be more understanding. Don't fly off the hook because of whatever. Like, just be kind, like, honestly.
Well, nowadays, of course, if you don't wear a mask or you do wear a mask, people get mad. So there's all kinds of reasons to get mad and not be kind to people.
Yeah.
Someone needs to shoot that bird that's chirping in behind you. Sorry.
Okay.
Just kidding.
That's a Saskatchewan bird, and it's fine.
Oh, okay. How can you tell?
Yeah, because it's wearing a green shirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Big picture stuff. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, big picture is people have three needs. They want to be loved, they want to contribute, they want to belong.
Okay.
And when those three needs aren't met, like, for example, there's a lot of kids, unfortunately, don't have other family members with them that are close. They don't have a sense of belonging.
Yep.
They don't feel like they're being loved. And then they don't know how to contribute because they're not sure, because they haven't built trust. And that's the same through racism, I believe, is that when young people, and even myself and older people and so on, have experienced racism, because we don't feel like we belong, it's hard for us to love people back.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to learn to contribute to each other. And that's just small steps. And basically saying hi and practicing hi to people and smiling, because people seem to mirror back what you want. The people that don't smile, they're just bitter Saskatchewan Rough Rider fans that lost their cup over the years on Kick and 13th Man and all that stuff. Yeah. So those people, that's the thing they work with.
that contributing piece is actually pretty important. I mean, most people don't talk about that one, right? And of course, during the pandemic and the shutdown, all of a sudden there were many, many more people who were not contributing in a sense. And I think that probably weighs heavily on people as well. But in general, if you're not allowed to contribute, or if you're like the Bible even talks about the fact if you can't work, that's a problem because you need to be contributing. And when we've got unemployment, and of course, for the First Nations gang, I shouldn't say gangs, but the First Nations people, but there's also gangs. There, we exempted them or forbade them from contributing too. That I'm sure that played a big part of it. So, thanks for bringing that up. I had never thought about that before.
Well, and when we think about First Nations, I also made a comment about some of the kids and being like not everybody in the community tells people that the Munya or the white person is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a few people, and it's not everyone. And I've heard those certain statements, but that's like the maybe 1%, maybe 2%. The rest of the percentage of people just basically treat everybody like everybody else.
Yep.
What you want to do is love your neighbor as yourself, and that's where that be love part and showing people caring is such a huge part. It's like the foundation of all things.
Right.
You can't love your neighbor as yourself. And if you don't love yourself, then you're going to show hate to others. And I think that's the thing of is people need to try. That's where that forgiveness part comes in, because they have to forgive themselves,
right,
and understand where the forgiveness comes from.
Right. Wow. When you guys think about the present, still all of a sudden, of course, racism obviously came to the forefront again in a big way. Reflect a little bit sort of over the last 20 years. What are things that you think have gotten better? What are things that you think have maybe actually gotten worse? Maria, I'll let you go first on this one.
Go ahead, Maria. You can go on this for the next couple of hours.
Okay, we're not talking about Trudeau the whole time. So, I think the breakdown of the family unit.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of families are either broken or else, don't have the two-parent system there available for the kids. Because unfortunately, the cost of living is so high. Like both parents will have to work, just make it. So parents aren't around as much, and letting other systems raise their kids or instilling values and whatnot into their kids, while their parents are trying to make it by and make sure there's a roof over the head, clothes, food on the table. So I think the breakdown of the family unit is what I've seen for the past 20 years. And then of course the power of technology, especially through like social media and media in general, how much it's changed over the years. And it's, if they get a little extra money in the pocket, they'll lean towards that way because, hey, the money's coming from that way,
Right.
And then of course being connected, like our children have been connected 24/7 now.
Yeah.
Ever since they were born. Of course, when we were born, we weren't. There's no internet. It took a while before we found out, what was happening over in Europe or, Asia type of thing. Like, so the technology and being connected 24/7 and just information overload in the head and not knowing, which is right, which is wrong, what sounds good, like it's just, and technology in the family unit.
Do you see like the darkening of Canada? Because when I first moved, even like here to Swift Current, it was white hair and white skin, but we've had so many immigrants and people generally have been very positive about all that. Do you see that as a benefit or not necessarily helpful from your perspective? Like, do you think that's helped the First Nations plight? Is what I'm saying. Maybe Dave can go that one.
No, I don't think so. I think it comes back to that point of contributing, and I'll just go back a bit. Back in '99, or '98, when I moved back to Alberta, I helped develop a home. It's called Tawau Healing Home, and Tawau in Cree is welcome. And the idea was a children's shelter where parents got counseling
Mm-hmm.
So the children would be in the home, like if they're taken away, counselors, elders, and then the social workers or whatever, they'll all be living in the home. And my goal was to have them learn family constitutions,
Right.
define roles, responsibilities in the home,
Right.
so that the counselor could contribute, the elder could contribute, and the parents would be there, and the children, and they'd help the parents tools to get their kids back. And that was back in '98. I wanted the church to take the same idea to help, because how many young parents don't know how to have an argument?
Right.
I know you've never had an argument with Michelle ever, but we have seen people that have arguments, and so we need to help young families and young people learn how to resolve and how to have a win-win,
Right.
or understand how to win-lose, but not a win-lose. They're still losing there. But that's the point of trying to help that. And I think the other point was when I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Red Deer Native Friendship Society, we helped develop the Average Youth Center for Success, and we give them frameworks of how to look at success
Mm-hmm.
and how to take the steps and small steps, and not to look at it as being something you can never attain. And because, unfortunately, because of education and residential schools and all these things that have happened in the past, a lot of First Nation students don't think, well, my grandpa didn't finish school, my mom didn't finish school, why do I need to finish school? And then the other part is, and not all kids think that way, but that's some of the things that I've heard. Or we've gotten to the point where, like, I've heard students in my school say, oh, they're just going to pass me anyways because I showed up, because that's what they've done through their whole school year.
Mm-hmm.
So when they finally finish school, they don't see any hope, and they can't get a job, and they don't have any.
And they actually didn't learn anything because they were just mailing it in. Yeah. Okay.
And they don't contribute. They don't know how to contribute
Right.
because they don't have the skills, or the, there's the people skills, but there's also social skills and etc. And because they feel the looks of people, I can't describe it, but when you feel the looks of people, like mad dogging, as they call it, we feel it sometimes when people look at us in the community,
right,
and we just go, okay, well, I guess we kind of stand out. But there's some people there just because they use the thing counter-transference, they look at me and they go, oh, you remind me of so and so, and I don't like you.
Yeah.
Because of what they did to me. And I mean, it all, when I think about racism, how it affected me, fear or faith in the wrong thing will produce fear in your life.
Yeah.
Fear in the right thing will produce faith in your life.
Yeah.
And it was the perspective of me that the loss, the more fear I had, the more I went away from my faith. And the more faith, if I would have put the fear in the proper place, and the fear of God and holy fear, understanding Him, that would help build my faith in myself, but also build my faith in others. And I wouldn't have probably have had so many challenges, because I was so busy not trusting people and thinking, what are they going to do to me next?
Yeah.
That I didn't learn to show love properly. And
well, at the same time, they weren't necessarily making it easy either. I mean, that's
but that's the thing. But because of my perspective, I should know better because of the foundation of faith, right? And I think when Maria was talking about just all the things that we see, like the recent things and so on, and the climate, the further away from God's will, His moral or sovereign will, but the further away that we forget about Him being in charge, and understanding that the sovereign will of Him, when He's in charge. And like your dad, God doesn't love us. He says God doesn't love us because of what we do. It's because of who we are.
Yeah, because of who He is. Yeah,
and He is, and His love is bigger than that. Yeah. And that's a thing that a lot of people have to try to remember. And like even when I think about our birth families, what kind of love did they experience before us? They didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Residential schools, the racism card there, and then they're trying to sense of belonging, so they look where other social people go, so they go to socialize, and they start drinking, and then it becomes a habit, and it takes 21 days to create a habit. So if they do it for that long, it becomes part of their character. Yeah. So anyways, I'll let
Well, I
I
mean,
could keep it until tomorrow.
if you guys could wrap it up into a bow, I mean, I heard you both saying family is really important. Having a mom, having a dad are crucial, and of course that was dismantled a long time ago. And of course, I think our culture in general is dismantling that. So I mean, that doesn't bode well for our our children as well, as regardless of their skin color. If we're dismantling the family, but the nuclear family, as it is really important. And when the folks in the South, the black folks, had their families destroyed through slavery, and then the residential schools and that dismantling the family, that didn't help. I mean, those are all things that created systemic issues, right? But putting those back together. So I think your idea of a place where you start trying to build the families back up again, that sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds super important.
Well, and that's just one, like the starfish holder one fish at a time. Right?
Yep.
Anyways, I'll let Maria close off here.
Well, thank you.
Well, how long have we got? Oh my goodness, 20 minutes again. You guys. We talked. No, don't blame Dave. Blame me. I could cut him off at any time. Don't blame me. So.
Okay.
Anyways, well, hey, again, thanks for sharing that stuff. Who knows? We may even talk again. I've got, the world's a funny place. I've got Bolivian missionaries I've been chatting with every month, and they were just about out of lockdown, and then they shut them all back even harder than they were before. So now they're sitting in their apartment for all week in Bolivia. You guys are allowed to go outside, which is nice, and we're allowed to go outside, and we're trying to move back to normalcy. But I guess in the big picture of things, we still know that the things that make a healthy society are the basics and the foundation stuff, and we got to be careful we don't tear those apart. So thanks for that reminder.
So, Joel, here's a little last question I have.
Yeah.
When Maria came into your family, what were your first thoughts?
I don't remember. She was just, oh, good.
I was just there.
My mom finally got a daughter after 5 boys. It was just Stan was a little bit older, so he adds a little bit more insight as to like the first year. I was a little bit younger. I mean, she was just a baby in our house, and she was like my little brother was a baby earlier, and it was just normal. So.
And did you ever see her experience anything?
I never did. No. Well, the neighborhood kids and everybody, we all played together, and no one ever mentioned anything. So it was weird, I guess, because that's not necessarily normal, but that's the way it was.
And that's a blessing.
Well, it is a blessing. It's a privilege, as they say.
Yeah. And then, of course, I had Jim there when we lived in Langley and Abbotsford. And
had we stayed up in the north, maybe that would have been a little bit more obvious later on. But I was already through grade 9, right? So grade 9, I was through.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I mean, like I said, it was a wonderful neighborhood we grew up in, and the schools were pretty excellent. What was your first school, Maria? You were only
in Langley?
It was for your first school was not until Langley.
Yeah.
So you never even got to go to school.
Kindergarten in Langley. So.
Right. All righty.
Chief Dan George.
Yeah, Chief Dan George Elementary. That was Abbotsford. That was later.
Yeah. Got to meet his family.
Yeah. Were you like the only First Nations kid in that school?
Yes.
Did they give you like a special treat because you were the First Nations kid in a school named after a First Nations person?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Because I was there when they were building it, and then we were the first class for classes to enter the school and whatnot, and then they brought in Chief Dan George's family for the inauguration of the whole school opening and whatnot. So and then they had a special luncheon with the family, and being the only First Nation, I was able to get in on the small group that got to have lunch with them.
Oh, little perk. Well, that's nice.
Spend some time with them and whatnot for an afternoon. Got to miss out on classes, so that was good.
Good stuff.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What year would that have been, you think?
That was 86.
Okay, so that's
86.
Yeah, I was already living in Regina. Okay, well, wow. I didn't know that story either. Of course, I do love the quotes from Chief Dan George. Maybe one we can end on this, listening to your elders. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the issues that we're having now is that the young people think the elders are bad. Right? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, boomer. Yeah. That saying, like honestly, no, we need to listen to our elders because they've experienced way more than us, and
And
we need to learn from them.
And Chief Dan was a pretty wise guy. Where was he from? Was he from Vancouver Island or?
I think he's from the Lower Mainland area. I'm trying to think of it.
Okay, I can't remember now. I should have looked that up, but didn't know we were going to talk about that. All right, well, thanks again, guys, for sharing with us today.
Okay.
And who knows, we'll pick up next time. But should the Eskimos change their name?
No, honestly, no.
And Dave, you're the guy that's got the Eskimo on your birth certificate. You said.
Yeah, that was my.
Because he was born in Edmonton, and they said his mom is Eskimo.
Wait a minute, but why are you a Stampeders fan then? That doesn't make any sense.
My last name is McMahon.
Well, anybody who's a Stampeders fan, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, good. All right, so we'll wrap it up.
That's okay. If it was Taylor, I could have been closer to you, but it wasn't.
I should just hang this up so you can't say anything, but I won't. All right. Blessings, guys. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Joel.